disobeyed his king. His fate is in his own hands now.
I will end this.
Now, moving on to the first Thor. Thor, just called Thor, which is cool, and, titles were simple, came out in May 2011. This is one of two of the MCU movies coming out that year, which is really cool. Stars Chris Hemsworth as Thor, Tom Hiddleston as Loki, Anthony Hopkins as Odin, Natalie Portman as Jane Foster, and it's really kind of our main cast there. The plot of this one, it's an origin story. It's kind of a fish out of the water story. We get our main protagonist, Thor, who is this, just getting ready to be awarded King of Asgard, very cocky, very arrogant, and watching this again, it's just so funny to see because Thor has such a cool character arc, but, man, he was arrogant in this movie. He's a very young and has a lot of ambition and has good intentions, but is also kind of a little over his head and cocky as well. He wants to kind of, he goes to the Frost Giants and he decides to kind of do things his way, and it doesn't go out. He kind of almost starts a war between the Asgardians and the Frost Giants, and his father says, you know what, you're not worthy of this, and literally casts him out to Earth, bans him of all of his powers. And then we have our movie where he runs into Jane Foster and his crew, and Dr. Selvig as well, and Marcy, who is not one of my favorite characters. She's quite annoying. We'll get to more of that later. And now we have our movie of them trying to, because she believes, she studies like the stars and science and stuff like that, and she believes in Thor and different things like that, and he comes and says, like, I'm a god, you're your work of fiction, different things like that, like Asgard, the Rainbow Bridge, it's a real place, and and she's the only one that believes in Thor, while the other ones doubt and think that they're crazy. And then we also have Loki, played excellent by Tom Hiddleston, being the villain in this one, and he would go on to be the villain in Avengers as well. You guys, if you haven't checked that out, I have done my Avengers review. And he is trying to take over being the king of Asgard because he doesn't want Thor. He's got a little brother complex. He never believes he was treated as rightly as Thor had the best treatment. And our plot, Thor is trying to get back to his hammer, regain his powers, and go on this journey of actually being worthy of Mjolnir, being the god of thunder. So what I like about this movie, Chris Hemsworth as Thor was his breakout role. It's crazy to think he's only paid $500,000 for this movie. And at the time, people thought him and Tom Hiddleston, they were nobodies. Like, they didn't think that they were going to be good at this role at all. And, history obviously has shown that they have mastered these roles. But I think he's really good here. This is kind of the Thor where it's kind of, he's got like that Shakespearean dialogue a little bit to where he's like, I like this, another.
This drink, I like it.
I know, it's great, right?
Another!
Like that funny scene in the coffee shop where he slams down his mug and different things like that. I think he's really good as Thor. We would start to touch upon that a little bit. I'm really glad that eventually that they took his character more of a, they used some of his comedy elements, because Chris Hemsworth's a funny guy. He can do the action well, but he can really do the comedy stuff as well, which they would touch upon. Loki, played by Tom Hiddleston, I think is a great villain. He is just so maniacal when he's on screen. You just like, man, this is not a good guy. He is sinister, and you really feel that, which is really cool. And again, that starts his overlapping arc. We would see different movies, but I think Loki's really great. Some of the action I think is really cool. They nailed the Asgard look, which is cool. Like as far as the CGI and different things like that as well. Like you believe it's just like a real place you could go to. The visual effects still hold up today, 9 years later when this movie came out. And I really do like Thor's arc as well, as far as starting off this cocky, arrogant, wannabe king, prince at the time before he becomes king, and him being humbled and having to go on this journey of self-discovery. Odin is also played very well by the magnificent Sir Anthony Hopkins, and his mom as well, Frigga, is played by Renee Russo. So a great supporting cast. Natalie Portman's okay as Jane Foster. She gets a lot of hate. She's coming back for Thor 4 in a couple of years, so that'll be really cool to see. But I have to say, this is kind of where some of the stuff doesn't work for me as far as some of the bad. The romance between him and Thor just does not work. They don't really have any chemistry. Some of the dialogue's kind of cheesy for me. She just, they start this bond and she believes him, and I get it, but Natalie Portman and Chris Hemsworth, I just don't buy it. There's just not the chemistry there. But one of the main things that one of the characters does not work for me is Kat Dennings, who plays Marcy, as just kind of just this comic relief side character. Just doesn't work for me. Her jokes are ill-timed. She's more funny than she thinks she is, and that's not a knock towards the actress herself. It's more towards the writing of the script. Just doesn't necessarily work for me at all. She was in Thor 1 and 2. I was really glad she didn't come back for Thor Ragnarok, for better or for worse, but that's just me. Dr. Selvig's also kind of just an exposition heavy character. He's the one guy just challenging, Thor, and his main, motivation is just because I don't want her to get hurt. And it's like, okay, and he's talking about Jane Foster, but it's like, why do you not want her to get hurt? Why do you care so much about her? And, his main reason is, she's done a lot of research, but like the motivation for that isn't as deep. The action, we don't really get to see a lot of Thor itself, like the god. Like, he gets his powers in the first act, he loses them. The second act's really him on Earth, and then the third act, now spoiler, if you haven't seen Thor, the Destroyer is sent from Asgard, and he kills Thor, but then he proves his worthiness by standing up to him, and, when Odin casts him out, he's like, whoever be worthy shall possess the power of Thor, and he proves himself worthy again. I don't like Sif and his little Asgard crew. They're just kind of throwaway characters, honestly. They come and fight. They fight with him. There's just no motivation or different things like that. And the villain is kind of Loki. It's kind of the Frost Giants. It's kind of the Destroyer guy. And again, you don't really know. Marvel is still kind of finding their footing with Thor a little bit, because this is one of the harder characters to bring to screen, I believe. But I just wish they would have focused more on Thor being a god himself. But just for me, I didn't come to see a Thor movie for him to have his powers taken on. I want to see Thor with his hammer. This is just me, like wielding his hammer with thunder and lightning. And when they do some of that stuff, it's really cool. That opening sequence when he's on the Frost Giants planet, it's really cool. And then even him and Loki have a cool battle as well. And he decides he destroys the Rainbow Bridge to stop Loki from killing the Frost Giant race. And Loki dies, as he does multiple times, until he comes back in the Avengers, obviously. But, yeah, and then the ending, it's like the Rainbow Bridge is destroyed, Thor does everything to go to Earth, but then he comes back in the Avengers with some kind of lame explanation with, dark magic, whatever, is what it is. So, overall, Thor 1, great origin story. Chris Hemsworth knocks out of the park. I would probably have to look this up, but the casting director of Marvel, they have knocked it out with these characters. I mean, they are excellent. I like the fish out of the water story in some regards. I like some of the action. I like Thor, some of his comedy, different things like that. Just not a big fan. Oh, and Loki as well. He's a great part. Just not a big fan of the human characters. Not a big fan of them not identifying a villain. Too much of time of Thor not being a god and being a human for me. Not enough time of him actually being a god. And then also just kind of like a okay ending fight between him and Loki. Like it's all right, I guess you could say. Not like some huge action set piece. And again, kind of just another film they were setting up the Avengers. But I think the later installments of Thor and his portrayal will do a better job of this. So I'm going to give Thor 1 a B-. Well, hey guys, it's been fun chatting the MCU with you. I can't wait to talk about Captain America the First Avenger next as well. So leave a like, comment, subscribe. Tell me what you guys think of Iron Man 2 and Thor. Do you guys think they're the worst MCU movies? Do you guys think they're the best? What do you think? What do you not like? What do you do like? Would love to hear about it. I'm all for discussion. And as well, just look forward to putting more content about movies and different things like that. Definitely check it out. We'll be getting my next MCU review in there, so you guys look forward to that. But then I'm also going to kind of do some other things as far as just movie and get some good content out to you guys as well. So, without further ado, it's been your friendly neighborhood nerd. I've enjoyed chatting with you. We'll see ya. Bye.
How do you feel?
Taller.